Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. I know this video is a bit different from what I normally make, but seeing how quite a few of you guys enjoyed the sound of my voice, I figured reading stories would be a good change of pace. Today, I will be reading some stories from the subreddit r/MaliciousCompliance. However, I do want to read your guys' stories as well. So if you have a good story about yourself you would like me to read, send me a message on Discord and you may be featured in a future video. The link to the Discord will be in the description. But without further ado, let's get into the first story. The first story in today's video comes from user Crane, titled, "As per my NDA, I am not allowed to discuss this position with former employees. Since my firing is effective immediately, you are now my former employer." Ooh, this one sounds juicy. Gather round as I tell you the story of the time I got fired at the worst place I have ever worked. From day one, it was a nightmare. There was zero onboarding or training. I was simply given the login for a couple of different websites and told to get to work. This company planned large conferences, and I was in charge of speaker coordination. I was the only person in this role. The information solely resided with me. Not a big deal, I say to myself. I'm good at thinking on my feet. I'll just ask questions when I need clarification on something. That turned out to be impossible. My manager's first language wasn't English. Now, I'm all for learning new languages. I think it's a great skill to have and it takes a lot of work. Being able to speak multiple languages is very impressive. The problem was that her English was so poor that it was often very hard to understand what she was trying to say. I once asked if she had time to hop into a call and explain something to me, and she responded with, "No, OP, self-skills is a must. I am bird without head." It took me a few days to figure out that she was trying to say things were hectic and she was running around like a chicken with its head cut off, and she needed me to be self-sufficient. Regardless, I did my best in the position. Small mistakes happened here and there, but overall the speakers were very happy and felt well supported. I struggled on the communication with my manager though, but I had thought the company was happy with my work. That was until 4 months in, when I was randomly pulled into a meeting with my manager, HR, and the legal team. Effective immediately, I was fired. I asked why I was being fired, and why was this the first I heard of any problems? Why wasn't there a write-up or a verbal warning? My manager said that it was because the 10 minutes it took me to respond to emails was too slow. That was such a BS reason, and we all knew it. If you don't like me personally, fine, but don't try and make this seem like I was a bad employee. To be honest, I was furious. We do the exit interview with HR, and then she asks me to send over any documents I may have. We worked on our personal computers remotely. She also wanted me to describe where I was at in regards to our next event and our speakers. Now, NDAs, or non-disclosure agreements, are really common in my field. I have signed one at the beginning of every job I have ever worked. But this employer's NDA had a clause, and that clause worked to my advantage. I told them, as per my NDA, I am not to discuss intimate details or share documents relating to this position with any employer, past or present. Since this firing was effective immediately, you are now a former employer, and I am bound by my NDA. HR hemmed and hawed a little bit, telling me that of course I could speak to them about it. This was their event. I pulled out a copy of the NDA, and pointed out the exact clause and said that it clearly stated that if I violated this NDA, I would be sued. So, no, I couldn't talk to them about the position. HR turned to legal, and legal pointed out that I was technically correct. They were a former employer, and I was bound by my NDA. They fired me 17 days before the event. They didn't have time to start over from scratch. I still keep in contact with some of my coworkers, and apparently the event was a bit of a mess, and the manager nearly lost her job because of it. Over half of the speakers pulled out once communication broke down. All because I take too long to respond to emails. Now that was a pretty good story. Kinda sucks that OP did get fired from their job from such a lousy reason, but I'm glad he was able to stick it to them in the end. Let me know what you guys thought about this first story in the comments down below. But let's get into the second story. The next story in today's video comes from user Rustic Whiskey, titled, "Get rid of my vacation? Have fun replacing me." I worked at a company that gave me exorbitant amounts of vacation. Anyone who worked there for 25 plus years would receive 8 weeks of vacation and 2 weeks of personal time off. This was a family-owned company, but a rather large company. We ran 3 shifts totaling 250 plus people. Enter Jimmy. Jimmy was a grizzled old man. He started at the company when he was just 20. He was now 63. And he didn't care anymore. Jimmy also knew how to make a specific part for our product. Him and only one higher up in the office knew how to do this. One day, the plant owner comes out and announces he's selling to a corporation. He's older and he's ready to retire. He promises that there will be very little change and wishes us all well. The new company comes in and immediately goes after many of the great benefits we had. The first thing they do is cut everyone's max vacation down to 4 weeks and do completely away with personal time. Anyone who's maxed out had until December 31st of that year to use it up, and they wouldn't pay it out. They then had to go into the office and clean house, firing anyone who's close to retirement, including Jimmy's backup. But they also do away with one very important rule. You no longer have to get vacation approved. You can just call in and take it. Jimmy was pissed, and they knew it. They realize he's the only one in the building that can do his job now. So they hire a new kid for him to train, most likely to permanently replace Jimmy. So Jimmy does what anyone would do. He calls in on the first day of training for the new hire and lets us know he's going to use all of his PTO at once, and promptly takes 10 weeks off. We had 10 weeks. We had a backstock of parts he made, so it wasn't too unnerving. But for 10 weeks, Jimmy went and applied to other jobs, found one, and started. Fast forward 10 weeks. It's the day Jimmy is supposed to return. He doesn't. For 2 days they try calling him, and they even go to his house. He is nowhere to be found. Finally, on day 3, he calls and resigns, and they lose their mind. The parts he made are specialized and patented by the original founder. You can't just hire someone off the street to make them. What eventually happened was they had to contract the original owner to come in and teach some new hires how to make them. And once the old owner had found out what they had done, it pissed him off too. The last I heard, he charged them a 7-figure contract to teach them how to produce the part, and they had to pony up or close down. Moral of the story, don't mess with people's vacation time. Now that's a pretty good malicious compliance. If you have ever worked a job where new management has come in and tried to change things, most of the time it's not for the better. The final story in today's video comes from user BatKevin, titled, "Smug Guy Wants to Order for the Table, so I make sure he gets his wish." I worked as a server for a small, brand new family-owned restaurant. The place was one step below white tablecloth and had a bar on the side, with the restaurant on the other side. The owners were awesome and provided industry professionals to train us on how to best treat a customer and maximize our tips. As an example of how effective this training was, on opening day, I dropped an entire tray of drinks down a woman's back, yet this family returned several more times and would only let me serve them. The owner brought them a parka the first time they returned. One technique we were taught was to establish who was paying from social cues and make sure they are happy. If a couple comes in and you believe the man is paying, make the woman feel like a queen. When it's time to pay, she'll likely encourage a higher tip. It's incredibly effective. As I finished taking an order, I noticed a family of 4 being sat in my section and stopped by immediately to introduce myself. My assessment is this. Husband and wife, very nicely dressed. Their beautiful early 20s daughter, around my age, and what I gather to be her boyfriend wearing a suit and tie. Dad is very clearly paying, but the aspiring businessman here interrupts mom when she's ordering her drinks to inform me he'll be ordering for the table. If looks could kill, the father would have taken out this young man and probably 10 other people in the bar area. Oh, buddy, your night is not going to end the way you thought. Every time I returned to the table, I would face him, only look and talk to him, turning my back to the father. The daughter asked for something. I don't remember what it was, and without even acknowledging her, I asked him, "May she have that?" He barely stammered out yes. When I brought the bill, I set it right in front of him. They hung around for a while, and I continued to check in and refill drinks while the bill remained untouched. I think Dad was making him sweat. Eventually, the dad grabs the bill and puts his card in. I brought back the receipt and thanked the young man for coming in and walked away. I was returning from another table when they were getting up from their table, and the young guy moved to the door at a speed that made lightning look slow. The other 3 were all smiles, and the dad looks across the dining room and mouthed, "Thank you." I gave him a smile and a nod and continued on my way. The tip amount is a number I don't remember, but I know it was good. Really good. Now that is a short and sweet story that I really enjoyed. But that is going to do it for this video. Again, I know it was a bit different than what I usually do, but I wanted to give something new a try. If you would like me to read one of your stories, don't forget to join the Discord and send me a message on there with your story, and you may make it into a future video. Again, the link for the Discord will be in the description. But guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.